Yeah, I'll do again. I've got another particularly interesting story here, which I think will probably get your hackles up as it has done with mine, at least from the heading of it. I've not read through the story as in previous ones, so it's a emotional roller coaster that we can all get on together and ride it out all the way through to the end, hopefully. But anyway, let's. As we before, I will post the article down below. If you please visit the site, it gives them traffic for their advertisers. It costs us nothing to do. I'm not sponsored in any way by that, so I'm no beneficiary of it. But it allows these publications to keep producing the content that we enjoy reading. So anyway, I'll crack on with this rather nasty tale from the header. So, first picture of nasty sex attacker who followed schoolgirls off London buses to assault them. He also sexually assaulted a woman on her way home from work on a night bus. A sex attacker who assaulted two schoolgirls in the space of half an hour after engaging them in conversation on buses in South London and also attacked a woman on her way home from work has been jailed. Mohammed Aminu, 26, was sentenced to 30 months in prison on Wednesday, that being December the 6th, having pleaded guilty to 3 counts of sexual assault and 1 count of sexual communication with a 14-year-old child. So really, this guy is just an out-and-out nonce. You know, there's just absolutely no other way to put it. As I've said in other videos, my opinion of somebody like this is he needs flogging. And that's just it. You know, and prison as well, obviously, but there's no two ways around it. And for those of you, this may be your first time watching or listening to me, I don't mean that ironically, by the way. I mean that people like him should be flogged. We definitely need to bring back the cat o' nine tails. Make flogging great again, is my opinion. Just so you know, this is the man in question. There you go. There he is. Have a good look at him. Nonce. Absolute nonce. Aminu from Nightingale Grove, Hither Green, was also placed on the sex offenders register for 10 years. He should be on it for life. He absolutely should. And to be honest with you, he should be deported. And I don't care if he was born here. Get rid of him once he's out of prison. The court heard that on March 22nd, Aminu boarded a Route 181 bus in Lewisham High Street where he started talking to a 14-year-old girl. Well, straight away, that is bang out of order. What's he got to do speaking to underage girls like that? Disgusting. He then followed her from the bus and sexually assaulted her on her way to school. I mean, that's it. Straight away. The talking, not really appropriate for a grown man to be talking to a 14-year-old girl. But I suppose you could make reasonings for it, say, you know, whatever reasons, you know, that is not the worst crime, so long as it's not suggestive conversations and he's not trying to get anywhere. But the moment he starts putting his hands on an underage girl, that's it, lashes. Straight away, get him in the stocks, get him in the pillory, tear the top off the back, lash, lash, lash. Anybody. Disgusting. Half an hour later, he boarded a Route 124 bus and engaged a 16-year-old girl in conversation before sexually assaulting her. Well, we're seeing a pattern here, aren't we? That this guy is just an out-and-out non. And this is what I've said in other videos. This is the collapse of society that we're seeing, where because of our social norms and social structures have crumbled over the last 60 years, we now have people like this who walk around in absolutely oblivious to even the idea that they're going to get caught. He just doesn't care. Just brazenly walking around assaulting young girls in the street, like that man who raped the woman on the tube, which I did a video on the other day. Just these people feel that not just that they're not going to get caught, but they must almost feel that the punishment just is worth it if they do get caught. That they're just going to prison is not a punishment for them, because they know they're going to get a roof over their head, they're going to get 3 meals a day, they're not going to get lashed. There's no physical consequences to go into prison for them. I mean, maybe from the other inmates, I don't know, but at least from the institution, they have absolutely zero fear whatsoever. And it's just shocking. It absolutely. Whereas if they were getting lashed, these sorts of predators, they would. Just one moment. Apologies for that. If you've just seen the screen jump, I've just had to pause the recording. Just had a bit of an emergency with my kids. That's all. So anyway, back to the story. Yeah. So basically, they don't fear going to prison. I believe was what I was trying to say. Although I've lost my train of thought with that. So, but I do feel that if corporal punishment was also brought back as part of a punishment, a lot more individual. I'm not saying it would get rid of all crime, but I'm sure there would be a significant number of people who would definitely think twice before engaging in such crimes, especially if they'd met other people who've had it happen to them or witnessed it happening. 3 days later, on Saturday, 25th of March, Aminu boarded a bus in Soho and sexually assaulted another victim. Well, he's got his modus operandi here. This is kind of like the behaviour of a serial killer almost. And I wouldn't be surprised if this man had carried on being allowed to do this, if he ended up going on to murdering his victims as well eventually. This is incredibly dangerous pattern of behaviour and escalating quickly. And I'm almost convinced that he's probably been responsible for a lot of other crimes before this. I feel with the frequency and the confidence in which he's engaging in this kind of activity, this is not his first rodeo at all. So anyway, so he followed another victim from the bus. Investigations were launched after the victim reported the incidents to police. Detectives trawled through CCTV footage from the buses, and Aminu was quickly identified as being the suspect in all of the offences. He was arrested in May. Detective Sergeant Matthew Brown of the Met Police, of the Met Roads and Transport Policing Command said there was a particularly nasty assault on girls going to school and a further assault of an adult who was travelling home from work on a night bus. In every case, he used force against his victims. Absolutely. And this is also a reason why in this country we should be allowed to have things like firearms and pepper spray, in my opinion, for self-defence. Because these females would be absolutely incapable of defending themselves against him or even feeling that they were capable of it. And not only that, but other members of the public, as with that man who raped the woman on a packed train. I mean, that is just sick. That is how demasculated our society is, where a packed train of people felt they couldn't intervene in something, or maybe too scared for fearing of being stabbed or I don't know what, so if decent people were allowed to be armed even with pepper spray, but I would prefer firearms myself, people may then feel more empowered to take action against these sorts of perverts and nonces and prevent these kinds of crimes from happening, because this is just completely preventable. Completely and utterly prevent. If this man thought, the bus driver is going to have a 44 Magnum underneath his coat, he's probably going to think twice about whether or not he should be putting hands on these girls, because he's thinking, am I going to end up with a dinner plate sized hole in my back? And for those of you who don't understand, that's not an exaggeration. The hole on your front will be about that big. The hole on your back is going to be the size of a dinner plate. Everyone should be able to travel on London's bus network without fear of being targeted by a sexual predator. It's vital that anyone approached by a predator reports the incident to police. Yeah, well, you know what? If people were allowed to carry implements to defend themselves, you wouldn't need to report it to police. You'd only need to report it to coroner or funeral director, because that's where he belongs, in my opinion, 6 feet under, rather than in a 6 foot by 6 foot cell. We need you to tell us what happened, no matter how minor you may think it is. It may be part of a pattern of predatory behaviour that we can put a stop to. Well, that's what I said before. Absolutely is a pattern of predatory behaviour, and unfortunately with people like this, it doesn't. If they aren't caught, it does end up escalating to much more serious crimes. Maybe it might end up as just being heavy, and this isn't to belittle it, but heavy groping, rape. But worst case scenario is going on to like being rape and murder, and that I'm not trying to diminish a person being raped and their experience with that. Is horrible as well, but obviously, I believe it's obvious anyway that the murder part is worse. Mandy McGregor, TfL's, which is Transport for London's head of policing and community safety, said, "These are appalling incidents, absolutely, and we're pleased to see that the offender is facing the consequences of his actions. Not enough, in my opinion. No one should ever be subjected to this type of behaviour when travelling on our network. No, they shouldn't, but people should be allowed to defend themselves. And unfortunately, our law, and we do have an inherent right to self-defence in this country, but it's what's called reasonable force. And I believe the interpretation of reasonable force is far too strict and far too punitive against people defending themselves. Which is why I think people should be like. I do agree with the stand your ground laws in America. I think they have in Florida, where if somebody attacks you, even if it's only with the hands or, like throwing rocks at you, you can pull a gun out and shoot them. Fully agree with that. F around and find out. I think I totally live by that. I think it's absolutely right. We're working closely with the police to make Transport Network a hostile place for offenders. Well, they're not though, are they? Because let's be honest, with the sort of laws that have been getting passed and the way that our whole judicial system works, it's actually an offender's paradise in this country at the moment, because they face soft justice, they get lenient sentences. When they actually do go inside, they get let out. Like it says, oh, you get 10 years inside, let's say. You don't actually do 10 years in prison. You do 5 years in prison and spend 5 years on, I think it's called remand, which is basically as long as you don't mess up, you don't go back inside again. It's absolute joke. Our legal system, an absolute joke. We'd like to thank these women and girls for coming forward and reporting to the police, helping to bring this offender. I totally agree, but maybe not with the girls, but that woman, if she'd have had a gun, she wouldn't need to report it to the police. She could have just dealt with it herself, and I would have fully supported her on that. We urge anyone who experiences or witnesses sexual offences or harassment on our network to report it to the police or a member of staff so that we can take action and prevent it from happening to someone else. The earlier it is reported, the stronger the evidence we have to help ensure the perpetrators face justice. I would advise as well, start getting, especially if you're a woman, start going to self-defence classes, learn how to protect yourself. I'm not saying you will be able to defend yourself against a man who's much larger than you, but you've got a much better chance than if you don't know how to defend yourself. Even if you only go once, do a 1 hour lesson once, you're still 100% better than you were before you went to that lesson. Obviously, I can't condone carrying weapons in this country because that is illegal, and you will get yourself into trouble for that if you do it. Anyone who's been a victim of crime on the bus network should call 101. Well, that's non-emergency call, so I would say, it does say dial 999 after that as well. I would just say dial 999. If you've been assaulted, that's an emergency. 101 is for non-emergency stuff. Right, so that was from my London. As I say, I'll put the link below. Just another brazen nonce, just doing what he wants to do in public. Absolutely disgusting. And another example of the absolute clown show that is our legal system at the moment in the UK. So if you've found that informative or interesting, please like, subscribe, and put a comment below. It does help with the algorithm on YouTube and all that jazz to get the video out. It's will be much appreciated. Thank you for your time. I'll post another video shortly.